My name's John from I5. This is the Northern Tactics podcast, and with me today is Olight's Gone. Olight's Gone, you're a member of Parliament and a leading figure in the Conservative Party.
Indeed, I am.
Chancellor has recently announced a policy that will shorten the grace period of being allowed to search for jobs of choice or jobs of a specific skill set from 3 months to 4 weeks. What's the reasoning behind this?
Well, we've looked at the statistics, and you see a large amount of people that have been on benefits for more than a year. And we want to get people back into work.
But how specifically does shortening the grace period from 3 months to 4 weeks act as a solution to those who are on benefits for more than 1 year?
Well, we wanted to create urgency and motivate people getting back to work. We understand that COVID lockdown may have caused people to become extra lazy, and being who we are, we know a thing or two about laziness. Furthermore, did you know what I see when I look outside my window?
A Christmas party?
No, close enough though. Millions of jobs. Therefore, how else can we better ensure that these jobs will be filled from people who need them?
Is that not an oversimplification? What if you have a skilled IT technician or a medical researcher unable to find a job in their respective fields after the 4-week period, and they are then forced to take up a job as a call centre agent, construction worker, or a cleaner, for example?
They're off universal credit and no longer a burden to the taxpayer. It's also not limited to those industries. We have private partners working with the government offering many types of work, including office jobs. And mind you, life is not easy. I started my political career as a stripper. Was it easy? No, but look at me now.
But by office jobs, you mean third-party call centres?
They have offices in them, don't they?
I'm not sure that classifies the occupation as an office job, as office jobs are related more to non-customer services roles, admin and the like. Do you not think this highlights the state of the British economy with the lack of skilled jobs available being the symptom of a failing one?
No. If I was to acknowledge that the Tory austerity over the past 9 years has deteriorated the economy, it's easier to play off perceived public animosity of the unemployment and punish them. It's also easier than chasing up all the fraudulent claims that were granted as favours to friends during the Chancellor's COVID furlough scheme that was written off and won't be investigated further.
But aside from the corruption, the austerity could indicate that this is ideologically driven then.
Of course it is. What else would it be? And also, I don't like the distinction between office jobs and office jobs. I mean, both of them are performed in an office. What more would you add to it?
Details about the nature of the occupation prioritised over where it's literally located. Aren't you worried about the impact of this on public opinion towards you and the party?
Of course not. Labour's opposition, even given the situation, is limited when it comes to an election, and the unemployed are an easy minority to single out as they don't really have any impact on elections. Half of them don't even know what elections are.
Some would say this is an attempt to divide the population between workers in poorer conditions on low wage by blaming the unemployed over the government for the state of the actual country.
That would certainly be one point made by someone who thinks wearing a tinfoil hat protects thoughts from being read by our queen who they think is a lizard. But I have another response to that.
Well, and that is?
Britain has talent, and we don't want talents to be wasted and remain unfulfilled. It's bad for the economy.
It's just that we don't have the skilled jobs that are above minimum wage which fit those talents.
Exactly. That doesn't mean engineers can be cleaners and 60-year-old women can be construction workers. Or does it? I mean, at some point, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask who we really are and who we can be.
On the answers so far, do you not feel this is consistent with the past Conservative mentality which seems to dehumanise the unemployed in the eyes of the rest of the population?
I'm not sure what you mean. Of course they're human, but only people have souls. Or houses. I mean, from my perspective, we do everything that is humanly possible to provide jobs with future, to aid those who need it. When someone needs a job to survive, he can't afford living a party lifestyle, let alone be picky.
Well, in the past, George Osborne had the unemployed work full-time jobs serving food at the Olympics, putting the unemployed on work internships at businesses like cafes and call centres for nothing, other than their benefits, work placements as volunteers under the guise of work experience, and also public projects like cleaning out parks. You could argue these not only are meant to humiliate and segregate the unemployed, but also use them as a form of slave labour, as they are effectively working for free under the threat of sanction.
I believe that people need to start somewhere, which may not always be their dream job. We are aiming to provide the conditions for that to become as early as possible. Imagine, if you had your first job at 12 or even 13 years old, then you have all the time in the world to build your career. EU had some laws which prevent us from moving forward with said plan, but I have a feeling this won't be an issue anymore. Also, if I may add, I think that's a very slanted way of looking at this. Are you a Remainer, by any chance?
Why would that be relevant?
Because people who are against our policies when it comes to the economy are Remainers, who are just bitter that we've left the EU, and they can't get their free feta cheese samples from Santorini as easy.
They're not though, are they?
That depends on what we can make the public think.
I see. Another argument is that universal credit with that 3-month grace period allowed people to leave a low-paid job and give them a safety period, during which they could try and improve their living standards by looking for a higher-paid job, or use the job centre's training facilities to assist them in doing so. Subsequently, removing the 3-month period may actually lock people down in lower-wage jobs and dead-end jobs.
Exactly.
Exactly. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
The lockdown had the negative effect of allowing working class people of low paid and dead-ended from employment perspective to enjoy having a lot of free time to spend with their families, not living exhaustion from long hours and not having their souls sucked. This allowed them to enjoy life and give them the false belief that they are entitled to better themselves. These two things are detrimental to the government's plan for the economy post-Brexit.
How so?
We are currently working with partners from all kinds of industries, like hospitality and catering, construction, and third-party call centers, to name a few. I was personally speaking to one such industrial head, along with a close friend of mine who happens to be a BBC correspondent. Britain could attract a lot of these partners to establish shop in the UK, and we could use universal credit to supply our private partners with labour force that would work for minimum wage or for free as an apprentices, and potentially we may rival India and Taiwan for this practice.
In India and Taiwan, they don't pay their staff the minimum wage equivalent we have here. It's a lot less in this type of practice. I fail to see how this would be more effective. But on this note, and given the theme of what you've been saying, a journalist once asked in relation to David Cameron's making of the unemployed carry out public projects, would he make them wear uniforms? The remark went over his head, as he would show his lack of historical knowledge later on when it came to World War II. But I would like to expand that question. Would you make them wear red stars of David?
The reason why you can't understand is because you're not a politician and you lack vision. As for red star uniforms, of course not. I haven't got any friends who I can give money to in exchange for manufacturing those items, nor a friend who could distribute them. On the fact about competing with the low wages in India, the initiation of the 4-week grace period is just stage 1. Now that we have left the EU, we are no longer bound by those laws, meaning we can scrap the minimum wage as it is detrimental to business.
By detrimental, you mean inconvenience to your friends in the lobbying circles and potential allies in the Westminster lobby, who may make money out of this and could then, in turn, owe you a favour?
Exactly. This would give us the edge over Brussels. A lot of annoying workers' benefits legislation comes from there, sick pay requirements, holiday hours, etc. etc. 0-hour contracts are in most places, but with the removal of EU regulations, we could force people into jobs under the threat of losing their benefits. And with the poor living conditions combined with the food banks as the only option, if they refuse or leave, they will have no choice other than to be on the mercy of their employers. Food banks are indeed uplifting, as they're very good motivators to keep people in long hours, low-paid jobs.
In essence, you want universal credit to allow businesses to mobilize those on benefits as if they were cattle and put them all at the employer's mercy.
Indeed.
Do you plan on doing a full regression back to Victorian times and lowering the employment ages to young children? Apparently McDonald's in America have already tested hiring 14-year-olds.
Not yet. We would have to create a new civil service branch to sort them. God knows how social services couldn't organize it. We've cut them to the point where there is virtually nothing left. Also, the electorate may not like it, even if we did link it to benefits. We could try building on the poor. Shouldn't have children if they can't afford it, like our former press secretary suggested.
You mean the one who was a former journalist who supposedly had integrity and was caught laughing at people dying while Number 10 had a party?
Yes. Oh well, there are plenty more journalists we can bring in to act as spokesman for us, even though they are completely useless at influencing the public, as people would rather listen to YouTubers than them. They also seem to be completely oblivious as to how the public views the government and themselves.
So why hire them?
We get softball questions by them, and as small as their audience is, they still play ball most of the time with that.
Back on subject, do you not think the 14-year-old age limit is too young at that age? For most, minimum wage would be a large amount of money, and it might put them off going to school, staying in school, university, or doing any kind of professional training, and consequently, this could lead them to regret such an inaction in later life.
Well, by your own logic, it doesn't matter, as there aren't many skilled jobs for them anyway. How do you think China came to be the superpower it is today?
You don't sense a lack of awareness there?
I feel the lack of progress in financial growth for this country. Not to mention, there is not enough of the unemployed to swing a vote across the country, so I don't care to dwell on it.
Very well. One last subject. Have you considered the effect on the NHS this might have? People who aren't fit enough to work on a construction site may end up injuring themselves and may not be in a condition to recover ever, leaving them unable to improve their fitness, which may have a big impact on mental health. Also, placing people in stressful jobs with low pay or placing them in jobs below their skill set may result in huge demand on the NHS mental health resources. It already takes a few months to get access to talking helps, and most only get 6 sessions at that. And adding to this, the Chancellor hasn't specified what type of jobs these actually are. Are there more in certain regions? How many have 0 hours contracts and so forth? Has the Chancellor considered any of this?
You could have mental health issues because you have no money, no job, no life. Or you could have mental issues being in the wrong job but having money and life. We provide the option for you. Therefore, as you can tell, of course we considered everything. Our Chancellor, you see, is a Thatcherite through and through, and he doesn't care. He'll just keep it as simple as possible so he can conflate other policies in order to disguise how disastrous or cruel his current one is and have a dim-witted smile while doing it, or he'll repeat simple slogans to run out of the interview clock. The media is backing him with the exception of a few channels.
Do you think the Chancellor will run in a leadership contest? And is it in his best interest if the Prime Minister resigns right away?
While initially it may seem to be in his best interest for Johnson to resign right away, things like local election results still need to be blamed on him, along with the environmental crisis and whatever else we can pull from our huts. Furthermore, the media is focusing on the Christmas parties is doing the Chancellor a massive favour, as it overshadows his very cruel economic policy and the current high energy bills. Living conditions are only going to get worse, and there is a chance that the media's focusing on getting Johnson to resign will distract from anything the Chancellor does. Also, the Chancellor has to make sure that no further questions are asked, such as who attended, and if the Chancellor could see or hear the parties from Number 11.
The lack of those questions does seem to suggest that the Chancellor is getting favourable treatment from certain news channels.
It does, doesn't it? Around the Parliament, he decided to go with another title. He requests to be addressed as, the Führer.
Blue light's gone. Thank you for your time.
It was being a pleasure. Hope to catch you again soon.
Indeed. Well, that was one of your MPs, a member of Parliament, and a leading figure in the Conservative Party. Blue light's gone, giving us his insights into the recent universal credit adjustments of the Chancellor. For your time, this was the Northern Tactics podcast associated with the I5 Political Analytical Programme. Thank you for your attention.